Welcome, everybody. This is Patrick Snow, host of the Patrick and Mary Unstoppable Author Interview Series. This is the first interview on our third year of this. We interview authors, speakers, coaches, consultants from all over the world, helping you get more time, more money, more freedom, more health, more love, and more happiness in life. Today, we are blessed and thrilled to be featuring a great friend, an amazing coach, speaker, and author. Her name is Autumn Shields, and I'm going to read you her bio verbatim. And oh, by the way, if you want to follow along online, visit her site at autumnshields.com. Again, autumnshields.com. Autumn Shields is a professional speaker, a best-selling author, a coach, and multi-passionate entrepreneur. Autumn focuses on creating experiences to help people live their life fully alive. Her book is titled Living Your Life Alive, Learning to Listen and Follow Your Inner Nudge. And we're certainly going to talk about that inner nudge. She has a diverse background that has equipped her to help others use their strength to catapult into living a life they love. Autumn served as a law enforcement officer for over 15 years as a victim's advocate. She's provided unseen crisis response and ongoing support to crime victims. While she was working full-time in law enforcement and raising 4 children, she grew a business in the wellness industry in social selling. She rose quickly up to the top 2% of her company and achieved vice president a title, and she might even be higher than that now. Although recently she celebrated 20 years in the industry of direct selling, she has also expanded her mission to help others by living their life alive and coaching individuals and businesses through speaking, writing, and a book, and now has launched a podcast. She helps people from a wide range of backgrounds identify their unique strength, develop mental strength, and cultivate deep sense of purpose and meaning with their lives. Her book has inspired and empowered people all over the world with her insightful perspectives on how you too can live fully alive. She lives with her husband on Cape Cod, Massachusetts in the summer and in San Pedro, Belize in the winter. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Autumn Shields.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Patrick.
So thrilled to have you on. You were just here in Maui. I'm fascinated by your book, by your story. Show us everybody your book if you can, because I think people need to see this cover. It's amazing, and that's a picture of maybe a dad and a kid, or maybe a husband and a wife jumping off of this cliff. So tell us the inspiration behind the book cover, and then we'll dive into your move to Maui and your entrepreneurial pursuits, all of that good stuff. So what brought you to Maui originally?
A nudge. I've been visiting Maui since I was a little kid and always just felt like that was home to me. And through my company, I've been there like 13 times on business trips and incentive trips. And I just felt the nudge that I needed to be there. So I picked up, not knowing anybody, and brought my son, who was 14 at the time, over to Maui.
And that picture could represent you and your son jumping off. Was it Black Rock or just jumping off any cliff?
This is actually Black Rock, which is funny, is when I picked this off, like, photo stock, whatever, I didn't realize that this was Maui, even though I was living on Maui at the time. And then it was after I wrote the book, I'd always seen the other side of this rock. And then my son and I have a video of us jumping off the rock like a year later after this cover was made. So it's a fun place.
So tell us your story. You are an extremely successful entrepreneur. You're a world traveler. You're a humanitarian. You help and serve people all over, everywhere. I'm so impressed by your story. Let's talk a little bit about your youth. Were you born with this entrepreneurial, bug? How did you develop this? What were some of the things? I know you had wonderful parents. What happened in your youth to kind of give you this spirit? Because a lot of people are just happy getting a job, doing the mediocre 9 to 5 and just getting along. But yet you've never accepted that mediocrity. You are always on the cutting edge of serving other people. So talk about your background before we dive in.
I was definitely modeled entrepreneurship from my parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, aunt, uncles. Everybody owned businesses in my family. So when I went into government work, I was really the only one that had ever stepped outside of entrepreneurship. and into what I considered more of a stable job. I felt that that was a calling, and I was nudged to do that. And so I was very happy serving people in that capacity for a long time. But that entrepreneur just always was there. Even when I was a little girl, I was practicing like having a fake little store and people coming in and out, and charging people to come in and do certain things, just fun different ways to make money when I was a kid, and opened a school store when I was in 6th grade. So just always had that spirit of entrepreneurship and marketing.
And then later in your life, you get into the criminal justice industry and you become a victim advocate. Tell us quickly about the Columbine experience and how that maybe forever changed you.
So I was definitely nudged to, I was actually had a friend commit suicide when I was in 8th grade, and a lady came from the police department to meet with all of us, because most of us were obviously kids at the time, and most of us hadn't even been to a funeral, maybe of a grandparent. And so she was just consoling us and trying to give us resources and talk us through this. And then I had a nudge, like lightning bolt right then and there. I was like, I don't know what she does, but I'm going to be her when I grow up. And so I walked right up to her in 8th grade and I said, tell me more about your job. And I actually shadowed her, and she helped me with college, directed me towards college courses to receive a degree in sociology and psych with criminal injustice. And so from that experience, I was a victim advocate at the age of 22, working, and in Colorado, it's pretty advanced in how we serve crime victims, but we are called out with police officers to handle things like domestic violence and sex assault, child abuse, things like that. So I was actually in law enforcement for a few years, getting ready to start in my 2nd police department. And we got the call of Columbine. And obviously when we heard what was happening, our ears had never heard anything like that. So it was very hard to comprehend. And I was at the school notifying parents, and that day did change my life, as it changed all of ours. And unfortunately, it's become a very common thing, school shootings in America. But obviously that being like the second, and that being a big one, changed my life for sure.
And prior to that time, had you gotten involved as an entrepreneur in the direct selling industry, or was it after that experience that you decided to kind of expand and do multiple streams of income?
After that.
Okay, so talk about how you came across the company of Arbonne. How have you risen up the ranks? Talk about some of your incentive trips to Hawaii that maybe first got you on this, okay, I'm going to leave Denver and I'm going to go out and explore the world. So tell us more about Arbonne and what that business has meant to you.
So I think, like a lot of 20-year-olds, we just think that, you're doing what you're supposed to do, right? You go to college, you get that job. I was married with children, and I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, but I was living like I had money on Wednesday, barely on Thursday, and Friday I was waiting for that paycheck. And then I just kept thinking, next week will be better, next month will be better. Well, that's not how real life is, right? Because some things happen, like a water heater breaks or whatever happens, just normal life. And with children, like, things are happening all the time. And I kept thinking, it's okay, I'll get a part-time job, or maybe I can do this. And just we were two professionals, and we just weren't making it. And I kept thinking, well, I can go get a bigger degree, and I just kept thinking, I don't have time for this. And everything I looked at in my mid-20s, either I was looking around and either people had time, I still have friends that just had a lot of time, but they didn't have money, or I was seeing people with a lot of money and they didn't have time. And I was not happy with that in my mid-20s. I kept thinking there has to be a way. And so I was actually introduced to the product just through a friend, and started using the products. So the products are health and wellness and beauty products. And I didn't know a lot about the company, just like, we get inundated with different products and ideas. So I was actually just purchasing the products at a discount because they worked. And I didn't understand that the concept is like what we call now affiliate marketing or referral marketing. I was just telling friends and family because, like, we all do, right? When we like something that works, or that we believe in, and or that helps us, like, Patrick helped me and I refer him, we talk about it a lot. And so I was talking about it, and I did not understand the business attached to it. I had a lot of assumptions about the business, about that industry. And so as I tiptoed into it, I thought, this can't be, like, I can't work this, but what was nice is I was able to work it around my life already. It wasn't like something I had to stop my life for and work, because I looked at a lot of different businesses at the time. I thought, you know what, I'm willing to work a business if it helps my family. And I just kept thinking, businesses take so much time to start, and they take a lot of energy, right? And a lot of money usually. And I didn't have either one of those. That's why I was looking at doing a business. And so when I came into this and I was actually exposed to the compensation plan, it intrigued me, but also the people. And I always say I can do anything in life as long as I'm surrounded by people that inspire me or people that are positive or just really greatness. And through this experience, I believe it's one of the best cultures. There's actually books written about our company about, to me, I'm like, I'm a 20-year-old and I'm growing personally and professionally. And it was just an environment that helped grow me in such a positive way. And I just immediately had mentorship, like world-class mentorship. And I strongly am a big fan of mentorship and coaching. And I just had that all around me. And so I feel like that is one reason I succeeded, is because there were so many people around me that were succeeding and locked arms with me and helped me.
Wow. And so you've risen to the top of the ranks of the company. And through that process, you've obviously overcome a lot of rejection, a lot of ups and downs. There are many people listening to this recording both live and on the YouTube channel. And I want to ask you, what's the best advice that you have for other people that are involved in direct sales? How can they overcome rejection? How can they persevere? How can they triple their income? You know, what's the best advice you offer others that are thinking about joining the business, or maybe they're in another company and they're struggling? What can you share with them?
I feel like there's a lot of cliches, that go along with advice on, basic business advice or advice in any type of business. But sometimes the basics are really where it's at. And to me, if you have a strong why that makes you jump out of bed in the morning and say, no matter what, I'm going to do this. I didn't give myself an out. I didn't give myself a back door. I didn't say, I'm going to try this and see how it goes. I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to actually commit and I'm going to follow the plan, because I was smart enough to know I was not smart enough to do this on my own, right? There's already successful people. So why would I just not follow what they were doing instead of recreate it? It's just like a franchise. Why would I go to McDonald's and try to recreate the plan? That's why you spend $1 million, right? And so I knew that this plan was a success plan. And if I followed it, I would be successful. And I remember the first few times I experienced rejection, I was devastated. But I remember somebody saying, Autumn, it's just opinions of others, and those people are not paying your bills. And that just like clicked. I was like, I am the only one that is going to have control over my life to design the life I wanted. And not only did I not want to live paycheck to paycheck, I wanted to be able to give a lot more to other people. I wanted to be able to start nonprofits. I wanted to be able to travel. I wanted to be able to make an impact in the world. And I knew I couldn't do that when I was focused on living paycheck to paycheck. So I thought, you know what? Anytime somebody says no, it just means they're saying no, not yet, or they don't know what I know, but I just have to say next, because that next person might be that I get to change their life next. And I was so passionate about impacting and even more passionate today about impacting people's life in a positive way, that other people's opinions, to me, it's just like noise. It doesn't impact me as much anymore. So you just, you have tough skin. You eventually just get tough skin and realize, hey, people are going to say things, but a lot of those people are doing the same thing that they were miserable at 20 years ago. So that's just what you have to know, is that they have opinions and they can live their life like they want to live, but they just don't understand it. Like I didn't understand the industry to begin with. And now knowing it's one of the smartest businesses, it's where somebody like ordinary, like me, that doesn't have a lot of time or money or background in business, can actually live an extraordinary life.
Well, I like that old quote that says, when you wake up in the morning, you got to ask yourself, how many people are getting out of bed to earn you a paycheck? And certainly in your industry, that is the case. And I also love Les Brown, who said, never let someone else's opinion of you determine your reality. So you've certainly rose to the top positions of your company. You've succeeded in this space. And then all of a sudden, you started going on these incentive trips. Many of those, highest level trips were to Maui. So talk about your first maybe experiences with Maui in that company. I saw a video online when you were a young girl with your family under the banyan tree in Lahaina, of which, as a humanitarian, you've now come back to Maui after the fires to serve those victims. And I certainly applaud you for that. So talk about those incentive trips and this bug of, okay, I'm going to leave Denver. I'm ready to listen to that nudge. And then, so maybe in two parts. Number one, what is a nudge? How can we listen to it? And how did your nudge point you in the direction of moving to Maui?
So that first nudge I had was in 8th grade, when I just felt like there was a nudge in my life saying, this is what you're going to do. And it was clear as day. So however people hear about it, I've asked and interviewed a lot of people about what the nudge or tug or downloads or, different people use different terms for it or experience it differently. Sometimes it's a whisper, sometimes it's just boom, like a download, like lightning strike. And so from that point on, I was very open to learning more about that because I felt like, look, it directed me in a way that was important in my life. And so all of a sudden I'd been to Maui numerous times as a child and teenager. And then as this company, during incentive trips, they were sending me to Maui. What's better than a vacation is a free vacation that you earned, right? So I had been over there numerous times with the company, which is phenomenal because you get to be around some phenomenal people, very, very successful people, and just get a vacation. And to me, Maui's special for so many reasons, but I've always felt a connection to Maui and just getting to be there. It's not just to be on Maui, but getting to surround yourself with people that inspire you, that you get to ask questions, that you get to follow, that make your life better was a huge blessing. And then on that incentive trip, it was one of the very first times I was supposed to be going to a fitness class at one of the resorts. And it ended up being a meditation class, and I'd never meditated in my life. And the lady was not even happy to be instructing it. She was grumpy, which I don't know how that works out. But anyway, I remember meditating for the first time in my life. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is insane. And so the next morning it was like 4 a.m. and I went down to the beach and I sat. And I just remember like download after download that you're supposed to move to Maui and start a nonprofit and continue to do this work. And so I thought, well, that's crazy someday, right? So I feel like nudges sometimes are like it's just not, it wasn't on your radar. Maybe it's something that you dismiss right away because you're either not qualified, you don't have the resources, you think that's crazy. And so that's what I did. I was like, that's crazy, not now. My son's just starting high school, all the reasons. And I just kept getting nudged. They wouldn't go away. And then I started asking for signs, like, okay, if I see signs, then it's like, to me, it's a confirmation. And so I started seeing signs everywhere and started connecting with people, and everything was just like falling right into line. So I followed the nudge and moved to Maui.
And then about maybe 3 or 6 months later, my neighbor comes over and says, hey, Patrick, this woman wants to rent a Jeep. Here's her phone number. I don't have a Jeep and you got an extra Jeep. Can you call her? And so we talked, and I don't think you ever rented my extra Jeep, but what happened next? How did that go from just looking at renting a Jeep and all of a sudden you're sitting at my publishing event?
Well, and this is really important to show people how networking is important, really important, because Patrick is a very good networker, obviously. And he's really good about asking what people do. So he just asked me on the phone, so what are you doing on Maui? And I told him, about my business, and he remembered that. And so he, even though we didn't stay in contact, we connected on Facebook. He said, let's just, stay in contact. I am at that time, not even at that time, but like a year later, I'm like writing a book incognito. Like, who am I to write a book? And I don't know if I could ever do this or figure out how to publish it. And that morning, Patrick was doing a free seminar at the business center. And he messaged me like a year later and said, hey, I don't know if you're writing a book, but I'm doing this free seminar. And I thought, are you kidding me? And I had an appointment right by there that canceled. And I said, here we go. Another nudge, because I started getting nudged to write a book. And again, I just dismissed it because who am I? But I was like attending writing classes, or I was like researching how to publish a book. So I was definitely, the wheels were moving and I was writing. And it was just another nudge that I followed, and then the resources appear. So Patrick reached out to me and said, hey, I know this might sound crazy. I don't even know if you're writing a book, but just thought I'd offer this up. And here we are.
And then within about a year, you were published. And the book is one of my favorites, Living Your Life Alive. I love that title. I mean, you're a perfect example of that. You're doing criminal justice work in Denver. Then you move to Maui. You're building an international business. You're a humanitarian, have nonprofits. You're in Maui for like 8 years or so. And then you move to Cape Cod and you have an amazing business there. And now you're in Belize in the winter and you're just doing all of these amazing things. So I can't think of anybody else and you traveled to Africa and traveled here and traveled there. You are living your life alive. So what does that mean? Because I think it's like the opposite of mediocrity. People do their 9-to-5 job and they live the same year over and over and over and don't have any other experiences. So what does that mean to you? This title, what was the inspiration behind living your life alive? And what's the best advice you can give people to actually do just that?
And to me, living your life alive is like a highlight reel. Like you can look at my social media and yeah, it looks like I just live on vacation or travel, right? And, or it's nice that I don't have a 9 to 5, but behind this, living your life alive and jumping off a cliff, and yes, living in Maui, and I've lived on 4 different islands in the last 10 years. And yes, all of those things are true. And yes, I have broken away from, okay, so let me answer that question direct. To me, behind it is the opposite of it, is not living alive. And I remember that feeling. One time I was shopping with my girlfriend and I heard her laugh really loud. And I remember hearing that and I thought, I don't remember the last time I laughed out loud. So I had the success, or I had the business, had the family, where I was, everything looked good on the outside, but something was missing. And I was living under this dark cloud that was really hindering me from being all of me. So for me to live my life alive, I have to really be all of me, and find a vehicle to where I can live that way. And so as I started riding on Maui, I sat on the side of a mountain and I started thinking, what is the opposite? I remember just driving down Maui the first few weeks I was there, and my face would it would hurt because I was just smiling so much for the first time in a long time. And I thought, I remember the feeling of not feeling alive. And some of those, like a lot of my clients will say things like, I'm stuck, or I'm sit there looking at the clock day after day, waiting for my work day to be over. Or I'm going to a supermarket at night, like walking up and down the aisles because I don't want to go home to my husband, whatever it may be, is that you're not living the life that you want to be living. And of course, not every day is great. Of course, there's behind the scenes of toilets over flooding, or I get short with my husband, or, whatever it may be, it's life. But the thing is to find a vehicle that, you can live out and bring out all of you and your passions, because I believe that each one of us were uniquely made. And the way I serve is totally completely different than the way, you serve, Patrick, and the way Valerie serves and Christina serves. It's all different. And so I just believe the world is waiting for you specifically. And it breaks my heart. Like, what still makes me jump out of bed, I still never set an alarm, and I'm usually never, never sleeping past 5, is because I'm still so passionate about helping people that feel stuck, or feel on that hamster wheel, or feel like there's not a way out, or have this nudge happening in their own life, but they don't know how to follow it, or dismissing that nudge, or thinking, who are they to have that dream, or who are they to, want more in their life? Why can't they just be appreciative? I work with, most of my clients are very successful, but they're just not feeling fulfilled because there's something else in them that's supposed to come out, right? And we're told, well, once you just get that house or get that career, you're supposed to feel okay. And it's not about feeling, it's about actually living what it means to you. Not everyone wants to live on an island, right? Or not everybody wants to travel. Somebody's like, who would want to travel as much as you do? Maybe you don't, that's okay. But what is it for you to live your life fully alive? And it's just different for everybody. But I am super passionate and on a mission to help people, whether it's my podcast or book, or, people I interview, or one-on-one coaching session or retreats, whatever it is that I love when people can bridge or break free from, I call it like unleashed from whatever they feel is holding them back, to living a life where they feel like they're living alive.
So you're in Maui, things are good, you're just crushing it in your business, your nonprofit is up and started. So what was that inspiration that, okay, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to be a professional speaker, I'm going to be a coach, and you succeeded at all of those things. So what was the initial inspiration behind the book?
I think just wanting to help others live their life alive, and feeling like there's reasons that hold you back. And then as I started working with you and talking to you about, all right, who's your audience and who do you want to help and what does that look like? And a lot of it was encouragement from you. And then just people would just walk up and say, Autumn, of course, you're a speaker, and yes, I would love to hire you for coaching. And the ball just started going. And a lot of it's just giving yourself permission to be open to what's next, what's possible, what else is possible in your life. And so a lot of it was just being open and letting it happen and doing what it, took to do it.
Wow. So then you've launched this huge coaching practice, and you've got coaching clients all over the world. I'm going to ask 2 questions on this. What's the best advice you have for other coaches who are just beginning to do this? That's number 1. And number 2, what is the biggest issue that your clients are coming to you with? Is it anxiety? Is it fear? Is it playing small? And then what's your best advice to help them live their best life?
So a lot of times people hear, like, you have to find your niche, right? In coaching, like, Patrick, you're very specific in coaching people who want to publish. and speak. That's pretty niche down compared to what other people are doing. So a lot of times coaches struggle in the beginning, like, I don't know my niche. I don't know, from a marketing standpoint, like, I don't know who my audience is. A lot of it, you can look like, I just believe coaching, like, we all go through experiences in life. And usually the best coaches are people that have been through what you're going through, but just a little further, right? And so it's just, maybe you've been through things in your life, or you have certain talents, or you have certain gifts that you can help somebody that wants to get to where you're at. And so to me, it's just, what have you been through and who would you like to help? And you just keep it that simple, because sometimes I feel like I got stuck on niching down or marketing and, who's your audience? Is it male or female or what age? And even though I do believe in that, and it's super important to eventually get there, don't hold off on coaching or serving other people just because you're not niched down perfectly, or you don't know who to help, because those people are going to come to you, and you're going to find out who you love working with, who maybe you don't feel like you're serving as well. And so just start serving people, start helping people. And as any practice, it just grows, you'll figure it out. Wow. And then probably people that come to me the most are people that were in my situation that want to live a different type of life, maybe break free from whether it's corporate or nonprofit or working for somebody else and starting their own thing, but they're scared to start their own thing. They don't see a path. It's very overwhelming to me. It's like writing the book, like, I got to hit the easy button with you. It's the same thing with, I think, coaching. Coaching to me is, I've hired so many different coaches in my life. And to me, it's just hitting that easy button of like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. Like if I think about starting a business or, pivoting and doing a different career right now, like, oh my gosh, I'm completely overwhelmed. That's what the great thing about coaching is that they get to hit that fast forward button for you. So you don't feel stuck. You don't feel like you have to take 20 steps to make one step, right? And so I think a lot of it's just people that are looking to pivot, but not really sure what that is or a way to get there.
Our guest today is Autumn Shields. Her website is autumnshields.com, so you can follow along a line there as well. Her book is Living Your Life Alive, Learning to Listen and Follow Your Inner Nudge. Again, one of my all-time favorite books we've ever done. And obviously, you being an author, a speaker, a top earner in your direct selling company, owner of a nonprofit, owner of multiple businesses, a humanitarian. I mean, how does one manage or keep their, what time management advice do you have for people? Because you have so many things going on and you're making so much of a difference in the world. And I want to share in a moment about your recent trip to Maui, but how do you keep everything organized, and what time management advice do you have for others?
I am not the person to give time management advice. I have ADHD. If anybody watches me, you would just be like, whoa, she's like a hurricane, just leave her alone. So that is not my area of expertise, but I will tell you one thing I learned early on that I did struggle with as an entrepreneur. And now my husband and I run a water sports business on Cape Cod. We're just broke ground here in Belize. We're opening up another little like entertainment sports area with a bar and restaurant. And I had the nonprofit on Maui, which now somebody else is running. But through all of that, is realizing your strengths up front. John Maxwell, I heard him speak very early on, and I think I've read probably 20 of his 100 books, but probably I've read 30 of his books. But it's like to focus on your strengths. I'm never going to be great at, let's say, online marketing and doing all the things that I need to do. Well, great, I can hire Valerie. And so if you can just figure out where your strengths are not and hire those, and or trade that time. So for instance, when I was building my business, I was working full time, which was really 60 hours. And then I was working building my business at night. I had no time, like taking a shower was like a special occasion in my house. So what happened is I remember somebody saying, Autumn, if you're going to really build this business, you're going to have to hire a babysitter. And I thought, the reason I'm doing these two things is because I don't have enough money and you want me to go spend more money, right? And I remember struggling with that. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to pay this person this much to babysit or to clean my house, I want to make sure that I respect that time and I go make more money. I want to make double that money, 3 times that money. And once I saw that that was possible, I thought, okay, what else can I hire out, right? And back in the day, this used to be a little bit more expensive to do, but now we get to pull from resources globally, right? I can have somebody do a logo for me for a lot less money. I can have somebody do marketing for me for a lot less. I'm not signing, $100,000 contracts to do marketing. I can have an assistant help me with emails, whatever it may be, is that you can find your weaknesses, focus on your strengths. Every day I wake up and you know what? I look like a hurricane, but that's my strength. My brain is going at 4 or 5 in the morning and I have a new marketing idea or business idea all the time. It drives my husband nuts, but that's my strength. So I just stay focused there. But guess what? I have people that support me, that make me look better, that make my business go better, that are there for me to where I'm not sitting there worried about it, because I struggle a lot with like, I can do it, right? So I can figure out how to do email marketing through newsletters. Yeah, I can struggle through it and spend hours and hours and hours learning a system. And then it changes. And then I get frustrated and there goes my day. And then my ideas that I was supposed to be thinking of, or my clients that I was supposed to be reaching out to, or my prospects, or making a difference in somebody's life, I was buried somewhere where my nose didn't belong, right? My nose didn't belong learning a whole new email program. So I just have to know what I can and can't do. And as much as you can, delegate those weaknesses. And back in the day, I had to trade people, right? I would trade product for their service, and there is nothing wrong with that. And we still talk about that, Patrick, like trading people for services is that, hey, I have this service. And some of these Facebook groups are fun because somebody's like, hey, what do you need? And what can you offer? And I love reading those threads because people are like, look, I need some email marketing. And Valerie's like, well, great, I need a chiropractor, you know, and boom, there's a connection and there's that switch. So as fast as you can, figure out those strengths and weaknesses. So that's my answer to time management, but that's about it.
Well, I would say even though you might not think you're a master at it, you are a master. And you know, the other thing, I've always been so impressed. I met your your son when you first moved out to Maui. I watched him grow up into a teenager and then a young man. So you are an extremely successful, loving, kind, mentoring mother. And you've succeeded in that space as a parent as well. So those of us with children, what parenting advice do you have? How do you succeed as a parent, as you've done with your son?
I have 2 things of advice, and neither one come from me, but I've led my parenting through this. One, I remember, like, I think it was Oprah was interviewing Jewel, the singer, Jewel's mom. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, how is it to have your daughter a superstar? And she said, I take as much responsibility in this. If you were to ask me, like, why is my daughter in prison for murder? She said, it is my job to guide her. She's not mine. You know, she's of God. Like, I just believe my son is just like me, like he's a human. And my job as a mom, I've been honored. You know, I've gotten the opportunity to be able to try to guide him, but he's not mine. And it took a lot of that feeling like every little tiny thing you do is right or wrong or whatever, that he's his own person. And it's just my job to try to bring out his greatness. And so that was one thing early on I heard that helped me with parenting. And the second, I just heard the other day, I interviewed somebody else for my second book. And she lost her son and her husband to suicide. And I was asking her this question, like, what advice would you give to parents right now? Because there's so many young people suffering in this country and others, just so many are really hurting and feeling lost and not living their life alive. And she said, as parents, we have to know our kids are a lot more resilient than we think. And that's a muscle. Like, none of us are born with resiliency. None of us are knowing how to bounce back or overcome objection, or when we get our feelings hurt, or when we get turned down, or when we're feeling lost. Like, none of us are built with that. You know, it takes mental strength to learn that, and resilience. And one way that's taught is by kind of failing forward and allowing our children to fail forward. And I'm from the generation where a lot of us are helicopter parents and we want the best for our kids. So, you know, my son would leave his homework at home and I'd run it to school for him. Well, that's not like teaching him how to fail forward. That's not building resilience. And so our kids are, you know, a lot tougher than we give them credit for, and just let them fail a little bit and let them feel life a little bit, to where we can teach them about that resiliency. Because my son's been through a lot in his childhood, and he's resilient. He can deal with a lot as an adult now. And I think it's just because he's been through a lot. So.
Yeah. Well, my best friend's father's in his 80s, Larry Beauchamp, and his advice is Patrick, you got to understand that your children are not your own, just like what you said. Your children are a gift from God, and they are on rent to you from God for the course of 18 years. And then at the end of that 18-year time frame, then that's when that video is due back to the video store, and you got to return that child back to God. and then they start their adult life, and there's nothing more that you can do except love them, nourish them, encourage them. And I think you nailed that, spot on with that answer. And I think so many parents, helicopter parent, or they try to make decisions for their children when they're in their 20s, and they got to grow up that way. So, wow. Well, I want to dive back in and talk more about the book. So what has happened to you professionally in your career since you've written your book, Living Your Life Alive? Anything surprise you? Anything, drop your jaw and go, oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened?
Yes. So right after I wrote this book, I wrote the book just because I just felt that nudge and it wouldn't go away. So I was like, I'll just get this book out of me and be done. And as Patrick kind of talks about how do you want this book to be formed, or who you want to read it? I literally thought I was going to write this book, launch it, sell some books, and go home. That was it. What I
And go
was
home.
more surprised about is that it launched a speaking and coaching career where people would come to me and say, can you speak at this? And can you do this? And can we hire you for this? And even though I was doing a lot of team training and leadership inside of my company that I was working with for 20 years, the network marketing business, what was nice is this extended who I could serve, as far as I was serving people, and building teams and leaders inside. And I was helping people change their life with this vehicle called Arbonne, which I still think is one of the smartest vehicles anybody can ever hop in. But what was nice is if that wasn't a good fit for them, I was able to coach them into another business or their passion or that. So it just kind of widened who I was serving. And I was surprised about that. And then I was surprised, getting feedback from certain people, and it still makes it all worth it when people say that, somehow it changed them or influenced them. So that was a big like shock for me.
Any testimonials from people in way far parts of the world that you thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe my book made it there? Any examples you want to share with that? Or?
Somebody in Australia said they picked up my book when they were in Europe somewhere. I don't know where they got it from or whatever, but it's always interesting to connect with different people and hear what they got. And the other thing that surprised me, people were like, oh my gosh, I just read it on the plane, or it didn't take me that long to read. I'm like, slow it down. It took me a year to write, read it slower. But so that was surprising. And then I did the audiobook years later. I did a second edition, then I did the audiobook. And I was really surprised how hard the audiobook was for me. I think it was a lot harder than writing. I think I am maybe better written than I am verbal, but that I think I just needed coached better to be more me and free about that audiobook versus like trying to read it perfectly. So now I think audiobooks are a little bit more lenient with that, but that was definitely a struggle for a while for me.
So what's next for you? I understand you have another book you're working on, titled Yet to Be Determined. Tell us about what the book is about. Why are you writing it? And what's your goals with this newest book?
It's about letting go of 18 things that are no longer serving you. So most of us have at least one or two or three, or maybe a whole list of things that we know that if we let go of them, we would be living all out or living our life fully alive, right? But I also think not just letting go, then you might let go of that, but that still doesn't get you to where maybe you want to go. And I think part of that is that resilience piece, is that bridge of building that mental toughness to get there, whether it's overcoming objections, whether it's dealing with a specific obstacle, whatever that may be. So really teaching people that mental toughness of what it takes to live your life alive, because you never talk to somebody that's been successful or living their life without a whole backstory of a lot of tears and blood and bouncing back and a lot of discouraging things happening. A lot of discouraging things happen, and to where, like, why do you get back up and do it again the next day? And first I started building my business because it was for me, right? And my family. And that was a why that carried me a long ways. But then you get to a place of like, either you're feeling, people either fear failure or fear success. And so you're fighting, to me, the hardest part about a business and or living your life alive or doing what it takes is between our ears, right? Because I can teach a lot of people how to control the outside of them, but it's what goes on between those ears every day that can make or break you. And so really building that mental strength on getting back up every single day. Like, what is it going to take? And to prepare for that and be ready for what's coming and what's next.
So some examples of this letting go process could be letting go from childhood trauma, letting go of divorce, letting go of forgiveness, letting go of trying to be perfect, letting go of all of these things that, like you said, no longer serve you. I think it's fascinating. When is that book going to be coming out?
March. I finally set a date. the reason I launched I did my first book, like by the time I thought about it, talked to you, it was already, we were like we had it out within a year, was because I set a date for a book launch. And so I had to reserve a location. And then Patrick, you said, why don't you just do pre-sales? Like, and I said, well, how am I going to get the money to print these books or do this? And you said, just pre-sell the book. And I remember putting it out there, and I remember somebody buying one book. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not going to take $24 from somebody. What am I going to do? Call them a few months later, like, I failed, and I'm going to give you $24 back. I'm a person of my word. So I thought, I'm going to write this book for that one person. And I had not even written a chapter when I pre-sold the book. And it's probably because I do have ADHD and I need those deadlines. And I was like, no wonder I haven't gotten the book done. I forgot to set a deadline for myself. So somebody asked me the other day, then she asked me again, and then she asked me again. I said, all right, it'll be out by March. So it will be out by March.
And I was actually thrilled to be at your book launch party in Denver, Colorado. And I don't remember when that was. It had to be like 2015, 16 timeframe. Awesome event. One of the things that I admire so much about you, and I've always admired this about you, is you are a master at creating and developing multiple streams of income. So number one, why is that so important? And number two, how does one succeed in that space of developing multiple streams of income?
I think just being open to it. I think we're so programmed to like stay in a box. And so when I was in law enforcement, it's kind of like the box. And then I stepped out even to do part-time work or start my own business. And there's a lot of naysayers or people, and it's not necessarily that they're thinking bad about you. A lot of it is just their own worry or their own, like, well, why are you outside of the box? It's like rocking the boat a little bit. And so when I started stepping out of the box and doing my business, I got a lot of pushback, or teased, or, just a lot of really dream stillers sitting there telling me I can't do this, or who am I to do this, or that's ridiculous, you're doing this, or why can't you just be okay with what you have? And so a lot of that, I think, just puts people right back into the box. And I stepped out and started building a business in an industry that has a reputation. Like, there's a lot of good businesses in network marketing. There's a lot of companies that are not so good. And there's the Direct Selling Association, you can go to dsa.org, that covers the industry and does such a phenomenal job at it. But it's just, to me, it's like anything. It's like doctors, it's like hospitals. It's like a coffee shop. There's some good ones, some bad ones. And I was just lucky to partner with, I believe, one of the best ones. So I realized that I only had so much time in my day, but I needed more money and more flexibility. So I'm a person that will work really hard. I just don't like to be told when to work. I'm usually the first one there, the last one to leave, but I just want to do it on my own terms. And so I thought, okay, if I need that and want and desire that flexibility in my life, what can I do to make that work? And I knew that if I put energy and effort into this, that it would pay me over and over and over. And that's exactly what this business does, is that I have clients that I've had for 20 years that order, health and wellness products over and over and over. They love them. They run out of them. And then I also have a team all over. We're in 7 countries that is phenomenal and literally just surrounded by greatness all the time of people. Sometimes people just want maybe $500, $1,000. And it breaks my heart to think in America, we're still at a place, and Canada is very similar, to where most families have to file bankruptcy over like $500 to $1,000 a month. That's what they're behind. Not thousands, not, $500,000. It's literally that. And so a lot of these type businesses can fill that gap for people, or, to pay off that student debt, or to help aging parents out, or whatever it may be, is that these businesses, you can work a little bit and make a little bit of that money that kind of fills it in. And that was my plan. I just needed that little money to get our family through. What I learned is that it also can be a very big business. And so I knew what I would put into it, I would get paid over and over again. And so after that, not a lot of other things make sense. So any business that I do now, I look at how can I scale? How can I serve this, serve people that I get to through this business, but also how can I scale it and what does it provide? So to me, it's super important that if you're trading time for money every single day, that you are benefiting in the way of money or joy, because you better be getting those two things, right? If you're not building something for yourself. And not everybody is, necessarily made to be an entrepreneur, but that's one thing I like about this, is even though I was modeled entrepreneurship, these type of businesses and network marketing or social selling, you actually get to lock arms with people. Like I said, those mentorships or that success plan where I'm not sitting around trying to fail forward. It's the same way with like partnering with a coach, is that I don't have to sit there and fail a whole bunch of times forward. I just asked Patrick, he said, do number one. Okay, now do number two. And that's exactly what I did. So I feel like it's a great partnership because I get to be in business for myself, but not by myself. And I love that. I don't love sitting and working by myself all day long. I love working and doing team events and fun things and encouraging each other, or working through problems together. I just love that team environment. So it's important to me. And obviously, I think seeing where our economies are and people that have bought into, like, I'm going to give my life to this organization and then get laid off, or I think COVID showed a lot of different people what they would really like to be doing in their world, and they just might have a hard time figuring out how to get there. But I think multiple streams of income, nothing's for sure, right? And I think that's one thing that we all learned through COVID, is that there's no guarantees and nothing's for sure. So to me, multiple streams of income are very important. But I also feel that if you have too many things going on, then it spreads yourself too thin, and then you're not doing anything right. So I feel like every project or every business needs that attention for a while, and for a certain amount of time, whatever that is.
Well, I also have to tell you, not only have you mastered multiple streams of income, you've not given up on your humanitarian work. You've not stopped being a servant leader as you are. I was blown away with the Maui fires that we experienced here in August. And then it wasn't but a short time later, on your own dime, on your own time, you travel all across the country to come to Lahaina, Maui, to love and serve and heal and inspire. Talk about what you did with these victims of the fire. Talk about that trip, and just talk about why humanitarian work is so important.
I just feel like you are who you are. So I feel like I had somebody tell me once, like, I'm an interior designer. Like, that's her brain. That's how she works. So when we talked about business, I said, you're always going to be an interior decorator. Like, it's in you. That's how you see the world. You're just, I was encouraging her to go out on her own, and so she can create a business that she would have what she also wanted in her life. And she just said, Autumn, I could never do something, in like network marketing because I'm an interior. I said, it's just a vehicle to get you to live your life. And so to me, I am a victim advocate. I am somebody that just wants to help serve people, sometimes through trauma, and other times maybe just pivoting or just through that career. So I am just me. I just have to figure out a vehicle or an opportunity that I can partner with or create or build to be able to live that out. And so I feel like that's just me. And so
it's your DNA. It's who you are.
It's just my DNA. So when I heard about Maui, obviously, just like many other people, obviously it's horrible to see. It's horrible what Maui suffered. And because I lived there, I just felt a connection I always have to Maui. And I had friends that, lost everything. And so it was just heartbreaking to not be there right from like day one to be able to help. I feel like it's an honor. I don't feel like it's doing anything, whether I paid for it or my time. I don't feel like that's anything. I feel like it's an honor to be there, and I just couldn't get there early enough. So I had to wait. We were finishing up season with my husband's business. And so as soon as I had the opportunity, I was able to go over there and serve just for really not even, just like a week. And I wish I could have spent more time there and had the opportunity to do that, because what was interesting about Maui is so many people came from all over to help, and so many people that lost everything were sitting there volunteering in parks and doing this. When I landed on Maui, everyone was pretty established, meaning not people like established housing, like established meaning systems to set up. And so I was honored to be able to partner with a naturopath doctor that was serving people in the parks. And I was also working with my medics, where people were helping them physically. And just being able to serve and learn so much about people. And what I've always learned about these situations through trauma is that although it's horrible, like you can never take away from things like Columbine or Maui fires, is that you get to see things you normally don't also get to see. You get to see the good in people that on a normal day, I'd be sitting in the same park and I wouldn't get to see the people that were serving and the people that were connecting, and people giving so much of themselves when they had nothing left. And just being able to experience that connection with other humans is such a gift. And that's what you always see come out of trauma like this.
And so what did you do? You actually went with families. Did you wear one of those suits and you went with families that had not been to their property and you
No, so I
handheld
worked with
them
the
and walked? Talk about that
I worked with-
experience.
yeah, so I worked with an organization that did, but I was working in a few of the different shelters, helping people with resources, serving in the parks, with medical stuff and just resources and things like that. Same with the shelter. But an organization that I was working with, they actually suited up, and I was leaving the island at the time, but they actually suited up and helped people go back into their properties. But we were just helping people relocate, find properties. And again, so many amazing things came out of this. Like, you think whatever's going on in your life is a big deal. And then obviously something like this happens, but there are so many people that lost everything that are such an inspiration to me. I actually just interviewed somebody a few days ago. She lost everything. I mean, her business, her house, everything. And I interviewed her for my book on resilience. But I also helped this lady that her name's Pinky. So she lets me tell you, she made the news. I think she's 72 or 74 now. She was living in like, a senior area and housing, and lost everything. And she was like, you know what? It's about time. I'm ready to reinvent myself anyway. Send me to a new island. It's time for an adventure. And just seeing, obviously not the first, 2 months, she wasn't like that. Obviously she was still dealing with trauma and just figuring out what's next. But watching somebody that's 70 years old start a brand new life, and watching where she's at now and her sending me pictures of her new life, just, it inspires me. So to me, I just get the opportunity for me also to be inspired, because a lot of really sad stories come out of it. But out of that are just people that connect with other people or end up living a totally different life than they expected. And it ends up being a blessing. And so it's horrible for the people that have lost their lives, and for the family and friends of those people, and trying to move forward. And there's so many people that are still hurting. This is going to be a really long haul for the people on Maui. So I feel like once the headlines are over, people just disconnect from giving. But just giving to a family right now, if people can adopt just a family, just, Venmo them or surprise them. I feel like every time you can go to a coffee shop and you can Venmo somebody $5 instead, believe it or not, it makes a huge difference. So, a lot of people are still suffering and still in shelters and not getting what they need over there, but it'll happen.
So most people never experience that moment of leaving the mainland and moving to some tropical island in the South Pacific like Maui. Most people would never be able to move to Cape Cod and enjoy that ocean life. Most people will never be able to travel to and have a winter home in Belize. So tell us quickly before we finish up here, what's it like living on Maui? What's it like living in Cape Cod? What's it like living in Belize? Because those are like a triple crown right there.
And the last few winters, I also lived on Marco Island, which is south of Florida, a little island off Florida. So I've lived on 4 different islands in the last 10 years. And now I guess I'm officially an island girl, but very different from each other. And every experience is so different. I mean, leaving what I knew for 40 years and getting up and moving to Maui was absolutely terrifying, but exciting at the same time. And then leaving Maui really broke my heart, but I met my husband, and, he pulled me clear to the East Coast. And East Coast, God bless you people that live on the East Coast, but just very different on the East Coast, and learning a totally different way of life. And Cape Cod's such a cute little island, and a completely different experience. And just meeting so many different people in the world. And that's what I feel like is the blessing of getting to travel. And then working our way down in the winter, finding ourselves on Marco Island, which is everything is fancy and nice boats and nice cars, and and that was nice because it was during COVID. So it was just really nice hanging out on that island. But from that experience, and again, just being open, because we planned for that place to be our home, and then coming down here and just being open to the experiences and watching the doors that open and following those nudges. I actually was walking through my living room and I felt a nudge. I thought, that can't be. And I felt the nudge again saying, go to Belize. Like, you guys are supposed to go to Belize. So to my husband, I said, we're supposed to go to Belize. And he's like, all right, let's go. And so we just came down here for a week. And then we met some amazing people. And we thought, you know what, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. And we just stayed open to it. And here we are.
Wow. Amazing. All right. So how can people get a hold of you to schedule a complimentary coaching session? How can people book you to speak? how and where can people purchase a copy of your book, Living Your Life Alive? Because with the holiday season here, it's a fantastic book any time of the year, but especially with the holidays. So what's the best place for people to find you for speaking, for coaching, and for book sales?
You can do all that at autumnshields.com or thenudges.com. And it is a fun book to gift for Christmas because it's a really good book for the new year. You know, everyone's always about goal setting or, you know, doing different things. And it's definitely not a goal setting book, but it is about steps to live your best life or whatever year for whatever time in your life. And I just encourage people, you know, to build now, whatever, because you never know what's going to lie ahead. You know, I had a mentor that always said, prepare for impact. Never did I know I was going to divorce being a single mom. You know, imagine if I didn't build this business at a time. Never did I know I'd get the opportunity to like meet somebody and just pick up and not have a career that I was stuck in and just said, okay, I can move. And then, oh, I can move again and I can move again. And you just never know what's going to happen in your life, or somebody gets ill and that you want to spend time with, or you just never know. And so whether that impact is good or bad, is that do it today, make those choices today. So it'll pay off for years to come. And most of us feel that fear right when we're getting on the edge of it. And usually that fear is, like, I always call it false evidence appearing real. It's not really there anyway, but a lot of it is just because you're on the edge of doing something great. And remember, the world is waiting for you. So don't hold back. Do what you are supposed to do and be all of you, because really specific people or things in the world are waiting for you.
So anything else that we didn't cover? Any bits of advice or nuggets of wisdom that you want to share that we hadn't had a chance to talk about yet?
I just love these groups, and I love, Patrick, what you've brought together on this show. You and Mary have brought together on this show and highlighted different people, and you always make me sound amazing. So I'm thankful for that. So it's always just a fun thing. I don't feel that amazing at all, but it's just nice to be able to connect with you and see other people. And if you're thinking about writing a book, I always say, if there's a book in you, it's for a reason. It's going to come out of you. And never did I know that this book would lead me on this journey. So just be open to things that are kind of nudging you or inside of you. I just believe that they're supposed to come out of you. And I think the worst thing is when somebody says, oh, I was going to do all of these things, but I just didn't because of fear. I thought, oh my gosh, it's the ripple effect. So not only by, you know, producing this book or saying yes to a business or whatever it is, of course it impacted my life, but it's about the ripple effect, right? I believe our lives are about that ripple effect. And I think, oh my gosh, it's so sad. Like, because you didn't say yes to like picking up that instrument or, you know, trying out for that play or writing that book or applying for that job or asking somebody out or whatever it may be. Like, imagine the ripple effect from that. And so we just have to feel that fear and do it anyway. And it's such a cliche to say that, but every day I feel fear, or I feel that I'm not good enough, or I feel that, like, who am I? Every single day, there's not a day that goes by where I put my feet down and like, I hear right away, like, who are you? You're not good enough. And you just have to do it anyway, even if you're not feeling like it, or you have imposter syndrome, or so many of us suffer from that and thinking, you know, what are other people going to think of me? And we're judging ourselves, but really it's, if you just make it about that ripple effect, if you make it about other people, it makes it a lot easier, because whenever I focus on me or my goals or what I don't have or who am I do not do well during those days. But when I think about, oh my gosh, who am I serving? And so just like this, before this interview, I've said, if there's one person that can hear one little tiny thing and they can make that pivot in their life, or they can feel like they're living their life alive, then it's worth it. So I just think about that one person, and that helps me a lot with fear. And so if you're feeling that fear or holding back for any reason, just think about the people that you'd be serving.
Very good. And speaking of Mary West, as our producer and the inspiration behind the show 2 years ago, her middle name is Unstoppable. So we call her M-U-W, Mary Unstoppable West. So I want to ask you, Autumn Shields, how do you define the word unstoppable as our last question today?
I think always just being open to the next opportunity. So for instance, I'm in Belize last year and I meet this lady who started this coaching program. She asked what type of coach I was, and I might have a transformational coach. And she now put together an entire group of coaches called Career Winner Circle. And we all use each other's strengths to be able to provide more for our clients. So I've never filled out a resume that I know of in 20 years, but we have people that specialize in like helping with resumes or interviewing. And then I might help somebody with mindset or whatever it is that we help each other's clients. This is a phenomenal program. And that's the thing is I think about being unstoppable is that we think when you've arrived, then it's just like it fizzles out. I'm always like, I've never arrived. Like, what's next in my life? And not that I'm not fulfilled, or not that I want more of anything. It's just just be open, because you never know who you're going to meet, or, who you're going to call on the phone to rent a Jeep from. Right. And what comes out of that. So just be open to people, and know that no matter your age, no matter where you're at, your background, your bank account, whatever it is right now, is that there can be a totally different life, and it's usually one decision away. And sometimes that decision is picking up the phone for a coach, or picking up the phone, or going to something for free, or just plugging into somebody. I mean, I have hired a lot of coaches in my life, and it's usually that one thing that helped me pivot to keep going. And I know there's a lot in me that I still think I can't do that, or I'm not good enough. But you know what? We have to work every day at that. And until I am no longer breathing, I believe I'm going to be unstoppable, because I just feel like I have so much more to learn, right? And I have many more people to connect with, to be inspired by, and to learn from them. And what a gift it is that we get to connect with other people and just all grow together.
Well, Autumn, you certainly are living your life alive, and you are a mentor and a guide and a healer and a humanitarian, author, speaker, coach. You're such an amazing person. So thrilled to have met you several years ago. And I would say, anybody listening to this interview, do yourself a favor, go out and purchase this book, Living Your Life Alive, Learning to Listen to and Follow Your Inner Nudge. You'll be glad you did. It makes for a great gift. Go to autumnshields.com to schedule your complimentary session, or if you're looking for a dynamic speaker, look no further than Autumn Shields. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Are you able to stick around for a few minutes for a Q&A? All right,
Thank you. Thanks for all your help.
You were amazing, amazing,
Thank you.
amazing. Okay, we're going to end the recording.